We are live. Yeah, for a minute there, it didn't look like my mic was on, but it looks like the levels is good. Hey, Gathering, and hey, Supreme Victory Network. Thanks for coming by. Good morning. Happy end of season. Yes, I had to. It's been weird the last couple weeks. The end of season has coincided with this live stream, so last week I kind of waited until afterwards. This time I had a couple hours before, so I went ahead and crunched in my end of season chests. We can really take this discussion this week wherever you all want, and I just noticed that my light was off. So there we go. Yeah, so yeah, I felt my end of season was pretty nice. I mean, nothing great, but it the where I'm at right now, the extra SPS is going to help because obviously we've been talking about this back and forth. So as more SPS comes in and I stake it, obviously I think that's going to help everybody. I found that odd. Did you guys get any decent amount of SPS this week? So Supreme says, got some good chests this season. And Magic says, I noticed the SPS in the end of the season seemed to be higher. Agreed, yeah. I've seen this off and on, and it's not just with SPS. This is me, but I think that somewhere in the settings they change it once in a while because I'll see chest openings where people get like one or two specific cards and get a lot of them, just like multiple people. And then sometimes you get seasons where a lot of people get SPS. But it's also, I don't know, my feelings are maybe since the SPS changeover happened, they allotted more SPS to go out this time. I know they're always going to say it's just random, but those are just my feelings. I find that odd. So after this, I'm going to go ahead and obviously watch other people's videos, see what they got, and hopefully people will comment on my video if they got extra SPS, but that's just kind of my feelings. So Supreme says, agreed. Gathering says, I converted almost all my DEC to SPS a few days ago. We'll have to load up on DEC again for land. I didn't want to wait any longer to grab more SPS. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that feeling. I mean, SPS is doing exactly what they wanted it to do, right? Look at it. Within the last just since the changeover, you can see where the changeover happened right down here, right? It was beneath, 0.18 cents, U.S. cents, and now it's almost up to almost 0.025, so it's really climbed in the last week and a half since the changeover. So obviously it's doing what they want it to do. Obviously people are buying up SPS to go ahead and stake it to increase their reward percentage, right? Which is the new way they're phrasing it. Gathering says, now with the XRP ruling, do you think a crypto bull market will be up upon us shortly? Well, I'm going to take a step back, say I'm not a crypto analyst of any sort. I have been in the markets and bought and sold and things like that for the last several years. It definitely helped. I mean, it definitely didn't hurt. And you saw all the numbers start to go up. Obviously, Aggie got on Discord and was very bullish on it and made a nice comment there. It can't hurt, right? I don't know the intricacies of it, so I can't really speak on it. If I was going to speak on it, I have to do a little bit of homework. Hopefully somebody can come on that is up on that and can give us some good comments and good information on that. But my takeaway is it can't hurt, and it, from what I see so far, it's only helped, right? So Supreme says, anyone into Immortal Creed? I would say that I'm familiar with the name. I just can't place it. I would have to look up. I'm always looking at new games. I don't really have a whole lot of specific things to talk about this weekend. Obviously, we like to keep it Splinterlands related, but Immortal Creed card pack pre-sale is live. So is this another one? Hey Supreme, is this another one on which blockchain is it on? And Gathering replies, no, he's been playing Stone Shard. So I am not familiar with this. I heard about the name, but I do not have any information on it. I always like new games. However, I will say that I'm kind of at a game overload limit at this point. I've got so many different games going on, and there's only so much time in the day. Supreme says, it's Hive. It's free to play. We can open packs tomorrow. I got an email today. So their pack opening goes live tomorrow, and it's free to play. Definitely worth looking into. I'll take a look at it. You know me. I'm always up for a new game. I've been mainly playing Splinterlands. Well, that's a misnomer. I would say I've been mainly looking into the land game in Splinterlands because, as you all know that I'm very into that, and that's kind of where I focused all my attention going forward. With the SPS changeover, I'm going to go ahead. You can watch my end of season chest opening video, which I kind of touch upon it, but for this next season, I'm just going to go ahead and let my Archmage bot play. It's going to do what it's going to do. I'm not going to artificially limit it down to gold because I have been playing in diamond, and I just want to do a comparison on what it does, how the new changes have affected me. I know it's sliced off a few chests off of this. The new changes went into effect mid-season, which was interesting to me. I figured that kind of change you would do in the middle of seasons, but nevertheless, I want to see a full season go through to give a complete, kind of my take on what I'm going to do with my cards going forward. But as far as playing with Archmage bot, and obviously when the bot ban goes into effect, I'll have to go over to Wild, and that will further affect it, and I probably won't even have to worry about it because I'm pretty sure my cards won't even make it into Diamond in Wild. But we'll see on that. Looking forward to the land, though. Let's catch up here and we can go on with what I've been doing. So now let's see here. Supreme goes on to say it's Hive, it's free to play. Okay, we talked about that. Bulldog and Tails, I believe, covered it when it launched. Okay. Simon, welcome. Thanks for stopping by. Yeah, I had switched, I guess a week or two back, I switched the time a little bit later because I had noticed that people were coming on the last half hour of my previous broadcast, so I kind of made it a little bit later. And it kind of moves around. I can make it move around depending upon when my audience would rather have it. So Wibble says delayed. Simon says been 3 days since anyone in my guild has got to focus. Any new, and Supreme says, any new posts concerning tower defense? I haven't heard any news on tower defense other than the fact that they anticipate it coming out really soon. I haven't really been into tower defense. Let me restate that. I like tower defense as a whole, as a type of game, and I was interested in it at first, but the whole art concept and the way they've taken it just kind of put me the other way. But as far as the game itself, I can see how you would be interested in the last take on it. They've been really shy on giving any hard dates. And obviously, we've talked about this. You're better off under promising and over performing than giving a date and then not being able to meet the date, and then everybody throws salt at you and everything. So I can see why they're doing that. I haven't heard anything behind the scenes. They did touch upon it a little bit in the town square, I guess they called it on Thursday, where he said that really, as far as the main development team, they don't have people dedicated towards the game because it's the whole separate team that's developing that. So last I heard, they're looking at it being out very soon. Obviously, when it first comes out, they also made the statement as far as someone had asked if card staking and anything SPS staking related would be live, and I believe they said no at the very beginning, but that's just something that will come as time goes on, because they've already said that they anticipate card staking and in some form being able to stake SPS or cards to make SPS, etc., to be live on that game. I just don't think it's going to be at the very beginning. So that's not really what you talked about, asked, but kind of on the same topic. Let's see here. Simon says, yeah, I caught that after I said it. Now, back on Simon's comment, he says, been 3 days since anyone in my guild has got a focus. What do you mean by that? Are you talking about the focuses we do on a daily basis? Gathering says, I wonder how much longer under land 1.5. I guess until land 1.5. I don't know. Hopefully it's within the next month. They keep saying, once again, back to the thing about not wanting to put out any hard dates. I can see where there's so many things you have to look at to bring this kind of project to life, that there are probably all kinds of delays, and people are working through, hey, you're in charge of this, and you get down to the end of it and you find, oh my, this is something we didn't even think about, and bam, that extends it another week or something rather. But they're not putting any dates out, but once again they said, hey, soon, to be determined. Supreme says pack prices for Tower Defense are doing very, very well. The thing crossed my mind this week. Obviously, I've been concentrating on buying cards for land, and I'll put my hands up. I've got 6. If you watch my videos this week, I've got 6 plots now. I have all the cards I need for staking finally, and I moved my hands so my camera kind of went into mode where it's trying to track me around. Hopefully, it didn't turn on. So I have all my cards. But back on Tower Defense, the idea crossed my mind to buy some Tower Defense packs just for the heck of it. Let's look at where they're at. So yeah, $325. I mean, they're a lot cheaper than what they have been. I have not been keeping my eye on them. Let's see. Let's catch up with some comments. Until, yeah, that's what I thought you meant, Gathering. Yeah, it's still status quo, right? Soon. That's the last I heard. Obviously, I can see I've never been on projects this big, but I've been on projects as far as development goes, and I can see where a project this big would come down to the end or towards the end, and somebody would say, hey, we ran into something and we didn't think about how this interface with this. There's so many different parts of this that come together that, I'm just, obviously I've been waiting on land for 2+ years, just like everybody else. But I'm, standing back and, just getting my preparations together. If you've watched my videos this week, you know that I've been looking at some different things just to make sure I'm prepared and putting the information out there. Speaking of that, if you all saw my video on time crystals, if you didn't see it, go back and watch it, especially if you have land, because that's a very important point that I found out this week. Simon says focus quests daily. Oh really? So you're just not getting any focus quests? Wibble says anyone into Mutera, they are launching a mini game taking inspiration from Terracore and Terracore Hub. Wibble, I have not heard of that. However, as a way to remind myself, I'll just go ahead and put that up there. And I'll look into it and see if I have a comment. Although I'm playing Terracore and Golem Overlord, and I don't know if I can take another game. really, at this point. I kind of have to switch around, but I am still playing these two games. But as the game is open source, the code is open source, anybody can download it and make their own version and start playing around with it. So we'll see that. It's just I'm sure there's a lot of work on the back end as far as interfacing with the blockchain, because obviously they're kind of relatively simple games. Each of the games look at things a little bit differently and treat everything a little bit differently, especially with the NFTs. But obviously interfacing with the blockchain and putting foresight and forethought into how your token is going to perform, the burn mechanisms and stuff like that, that's a big thing. So you have to put a lot of thought process into it. So just to answer you, I kind of went off on a tangent there, but no, I haven't looked into it, but I've got it on my notes here in my tab to take a look. Simon says, right now, I'd have to win 20 matches to get one chest. Yeah, that goes back to my thought process on how I'm doing in Diamond since the changeover. I'm making far less points. It's taking me far more, and I basically shaved off a bunch of chests. So we've only went through half a season. I'm going to go ahead and let it go through another full season before I make any assertions, comments, changes to the way my play is going. I had put some forethought into just going ahead and limiting it down to gold. And, you know, I still think that the diamond chests, you can extrapolate both ways. So if you're in silver, I still think the gold chests are worth a good deal more than the silver. And obviously the diamond are worth a bit more than the gold. However, you still get in those situations, just for instance, on a daily basis, I went from, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 chests a day in diamond to 2. And not to even to mention my secondary account, which I was doing good to get like 1 chest a day, and it was playing in gold at the end of the season. Obviously, I think I'm going to have to limit that back down to silver just due to the cards that are on that hand or on that collection. But it went down from 5 or 6 chests a day in silver to like 0 or maybe 1 gold chest. But that was a combination of the changes plus going up into gold versus silver. I see what you mean, though, and we're probably going to have to go, I would say, another full season and then kind of base your changes on that. That's what I'm going to do. It seems logical to me. The problem here is that we get in a situation where there's multiple things happening. If you're going to do testing on some changes, just logically, just follow me here. If you're going to do some changes on some testing, you generally want to make one big change and then test it. What we have in this situation is a consolidation of multiple changes happening at one time, and you can't really tell exactly what's affecting what. You can make some assertions and some educated guesses, but at this point, especially when we go ahead and we get the bot ban going into place, there's going to be a lot of things happening at one time. All we can do is let it ride and take the data you can pull out of it and make the best decision you can. To me, like I said, I've converted over to putting my efforts towards land instead of putting my efforts towards my actual card play. Am I going to stop my bot from playing, Archmage from playing my cards? No, I'm not. I'm just going to let it play, especially through this season. I'll see how it ends up in Diamond. I may end up going and just limiting it back to gold. I don't know as of yet. But if you've been watching videos of mine in the past, you know that I usually put out videos, and I tried to make my card collection better, stronger on a weekly basis by getting the most out of the best value cards, right? Instead of just going up the top end and just buying really expensive cards, I tried to find the good value cards at the bottom to increase the strength of my deck. Well, I don't really have enough money to keep doing that and also buy stuff for land, because as we've seen, as it's gone along, land has gotten progressively and progressively more expensive. And I'm not saying that, I'm not really saying that to complain. I'm saying that it's a lot more expensive than what we even thought it was going to be, because you have so many prices around the land. And I've been doing videos on that, and everybody's been talking about it, so I'm not going to beat it again. But I don't have money to do both. So I wish I was rich, but I'm not. Let's see here. Gathering says, did you pick up any more alpha cards this week? I have not. I still need to, but to tell you the truth, yesterday was my birthday. I took the day off and I kind of enjoyed it, had a couple good beers. Today, what I did do is I filled out all the gold foil cards I need for my 6 plots of land. So I am done as far as that goes. Obviously, things can change in the future if I find a more efficient way, some way I want to change it. But as of now, I have all the cards, and I had to throw another $100 at gold foil commons this week. But I'm done. Now, I did that because I kind of see the prices kind of creeping up. And obviously not investment advice, but I would say that if you have lands, you better get your cards to stake on those lands in order sooner rather than later, because I anticipate the cards going up in price, especially when it comes right down to it and land 1.5 drops. I'm not really a betting man. I'm not a gambling man, but, well, people would argue that since I play this game, but I think you have to have a certain amount of gambler in you to play this type of game. But I'm set up. I haven't bought an alpha. I do need to catch up on that because I didn't buy one last week either. My collection looks pretty good so far. Let's see. Simon says, I'm in gold now, also thinking of dropping to silver. Well, like I said, I think you should play out a full season, see where you stand, and then try to make the decision from that. Because I've come and I've done this decision before, obviously under different circumstances, because I kind of felt, well, should I keep playing in Diamond? This is when I first crossed over into Diamond. I wasn't doing very well, wasn't getting too many chests, and a lot of people the feedback seemed to be that, oh, keep playing in Diamond because the Diamond chests are a lot better than gold. And the same thing applies to gold versus silver. I would argue that. So you've just got to, I would play a full season, do what you're doing, and then take that data and make your decisions. That's what I would do. That's what I'm doing. It seems logical to me. So I don't think I can make decisions on half a season's worth of data in my mind. I try to make logical decisions. There's a lot of impulsive stuff I do, like buy gold foil commons for my lands and wake up and buy a land plot from Nate just because it looks good, things like this. But I am looking for one more plot in I thought I was done, but I would like to have one more plot in 133 in Ravenwood. I would like to get rid of my plot in Gillith, which is just like a lonely old desert over here. One of the first plot I ever claimed. I could not sell it off. I would like to sell it off because my other 2 plots are over. I do have 3 in Tostrington now, and I have 2 in Ravenwood, but I would like a 3rd in Ravenwood. Ultimately, I would like to get up to 10 because I kind of like nice even numbers. And we'll see how it goes, because I would like to go ahead and get my lands up and running. We discussed, if you didn't watch my videos this week, please go back and watch it, not just from the sake of wanting to get more views, but they include important information on the feeding of the staked cards. And in relation, I had people, Voazina, if you're out there, I don't think he's been on today, but he did mention the fact that the time crystals and the time vault starter package, which includes time crystals, which the time crystals can be bought by anybody. Well, I don't want to say bought. You can burn DEC with your local castle to buy time crystals and clear your land immediately, which right up front for the first week or two seems to be the most very efficient thing to do, because what you're going to pay is the same amount if that you would pay to feed the monsters you're staking. So basically you could, even if you don't have the time vault package, which helps, you could go ahead and burn that DEC to go ahead and instantly complete the clearing of your land. So that's kind of one of the topics I covered this week, but I wanted to mention that as we go forward. Let's see here. Simon mentions he also uses Archmage. I've had largely good luck. I mean, I don't have any complaints about Archmage. I think that I don't think it's performing as good as it used to, but like I said, there's a confluence of changes that have happened to the game in the last few months, so I'm not necessarily blaming the bot. I would like to try the other Xbot, but I haven't yet, so I want to kind of get past the bot ban whenever that happens, and then decide and make changes as far as that goes. Both of my accounts probably will be playing in Wild. I don't know. Because at that point, I hope that the land game is up and running, and that will probably take the biggest portion of my time. It remains to be seen how much time is going to go into daily maintenance of the land plots. That's another interesting thing. I do know that they've been working hard on the UI to present nice screens as far as interfacing with multiple plots of land. So I assume that it's going to be relatively easy to get in and do things with your land, but obviously we don't know other than what Nate has shared as far as the UI art, so. Let's see. Gathering says, I don't play much ranked anymore, especially at the beginning of season. More into Splinterforge and swapping into DEC to buy cards. And he goes on to say, happy birthday, happy 29th. Yeah, not exactly 29th, but thank you. Had a couple tasty beers from Brewery Omegang in upstate New York. One of my favorite breweries here in the U.S. They are strictly Belgian style, which is my favorite style of beers. So, the beginning, this has been years. I don't like the beginning of the season. That kind of goes along with my thought process in playing in bronze again. I hate it. Beginning of the season is just to duke it out, and especially at the beginning of the season, I like the fact that my accounts are automated with Archmage, and I don't have to deal with it. So let's see here. Magic Supreme says, happy birthday, thank you. And Simon says, happy birthday again. Hope you enjoyed your fava beans and Chianti. I love fava beans, and I love Chianti. I did not have those. It's been a little bit since I've had fava beans, but I do have some good recipes. I like to cook it with a little bit of ham and roasted garlic, and I do like a little Chianti on the side too. Gathering says, just one more. It's always my feeling for land. Yeah, well, my initial feeling was, and this is just kind of looking at it from a glass half full type perspective, whereas it's hard for me to do that. I'm usually a negative guy. You've seen my videos, you've seen me throw out plenty of salt, and I'm not afraid to do that because I like to call it as I see it. But land, I've always looked forward to it. I always like that type of game where you buy land, you build it up, that kind of game. So that's when I saw land coming into this game. That's why I wanted to go ahead and jump in. But what I foresee is, if possible, and land gets up and running smoothly in 1.5, then the profits get funneled into kind of this portion of my account where it's dedicated towards buying another land. So the profits go, they do what they're going to do, and I make changes as time goes along, logically speaking, to make them earn the most profit or do whatever I want to do with it. I do have a couple lands that will probably not even be making any profit whatsoever because they're magic and they'll be doing the research. So that's another one of those things that's way down the road. They'll tell us what research does, but I'm assuming it'll do something. I'm hoping. But I anticipate wanting to save the profits and putting it towards buying another plot, and then so on and so forth. I could foresee my style of gameplay being like, hey, that's Bronze Dragon. He owns like half the country or whatever, that kind of thing. Not that much, obviously. But kind of a slow build kind of perspective versus I think the people that went all in and bought large portions, and I'm not really talking about the team here who probably got large portions as part of their paycheck or something like that, large portions of the map, they're realizing how much it's going to cost to get those plots up and running. And I'm seeing this with several people. If you just watch the market, you can see what's happening, that there's several people that, revealed their region or whatever, and they're keeping their castle, they're keeping their keeps, they're keeping some of their higher end lands, but they're auctioning off, they're selling off all their lower end commons because they don't want to put their money towards building up the commons and using those because it's just going to cost so much. So that's just my take on it. Supreme says, smash the like button, cough, cough. Yeah, I don't, I'm guilty of forgetting to say that. Yeah, I appreciate the likes and I appreciate the subscribes. I'm looking forward to hitting that 500 mark. Obviously, taking the channel forward a little bit. I'm trying to, keep the Splinterlands content going, trying to spice it up with a few other type comments and or contents as well. I just ordered a new mic. Amazon Prime Day, found a good deal on a Blue Yeti mic. So that'll be here whenever it's here. So I've been kind of using a janky setup. It's a good mic, but it's kind of a janky setup. I keep it out of the screen because it looks kind of weird, but it sounds pretty good. It's a microphone I've been using for like almost 10 years now, but still works good. So Gathering says people want to put at least one monster on each of their plots to keep them from being surfed. Or will being surfed be a good thing? I think being surfed will be a good thing, Gathering. And it really just depends upon how you look at it. Now, when that was first mentioned, when land surfing was first mentioned, I went down this whole path of maybe I should just buy a bunch of cheap common lands and let them be land surfed. And then I started going down the path and thinking about it, and we started talking about it a little bit, did a little bit of videos and talked back and forth with some of the subscribers and people on Discord and stuff. And I think it's a good thing, especially for people who don't necessarily want to invest a bunch of money in land. But from a guy's perspective who I'm all into land, I can't see leaving my land open to be surfed. Not that there's anything against it, but I am going to want to stake cards and make the max possible out of that land if I buy a land. Now, I could foresee in the future that if land just like dropped exponentially and there was some really cheap lands, yeah, I mean, it would be very tempting not to pick them up. I mean, at the beginning of this, I told everyone, and I made the bold statement that got me some oohs and ahs and some boos, that I felt that commons were going to fall down around the $20 to $30 range. We're seeing them at about $35 now. So I think that when it originally, they had the idea and they sold land plots at $20 a piece, I think that they had the full thought that the land plots were going to be worth $20. But then everything just, the hype just went crazy and people started buying them up. And yeah, I'm guilty. I mean, I probably paid on average of $80 or $100 per plot, for mine, if we averaged them all out, right? But I guess back to my point is that if land came down in price, it might be worth it to buy some cheap lands and just put them out there. I still think that to be attractive to people, you would have to clear it. You'd have to go in and clear it and build your building on it, and then you could just leave it open. But to me, my thought process right up front is I'm going to want to fully stake out all the land I have. And then there's the thought process of, well, the higher end lands are going to be much more attractive to people wanting to stake. And what's going to happen is there's going to be a fight for those high end lands, right? You might say, oh, I've got my land, but I see a land over here. Let's just take let's just look at occupied legendary. So let's just say, okay, so this land in Findel, oh, nobody's on it. Well, I'm going to occupy it. You know, I'm going to jump on it. And then somebody else next to you says, oh, I would rather be that. So he's going to come in with a bigger bunch of characters. And what we're going to see is these higher and more rare land plots are going to have fully staked out large amounts of high-end cards, and it's going to be hard to get on them. So it's going to have a trickle-down effect, because obviously the commons are going to be the last ones that people want to land surf on, right? Because if they're going to stake their cards, they want to get the most out of it. From an owner's perspective, I don't know why you would buy a legendary, a mythic, and not stake it out, but there could be some people that bought a land and they just can't afford to do it. They forgot about it. They died. I don't know. So I think it's a good thing, but from my perspective, I'm not concentrating on that, going at it from that route. If it ends up that way in the future, it might. I don't know. But for me, that's not my play right now. And if you just put one monster on the land, there's still 4 spots open. I don't know. That's worth looking into, whether if you have one monster staked, then that doesn't let somebody come in and fill out the other 4 spots. I don't know. I do know that they said that if you wanted to kick somebody off the land plot, you could come in and backfill and stake cards, and if you did, you would kick them off the land. But it's worth looking into, and obviously this is still an idea that's in process, so I'm sure when they get to the point of putting it out, they'll put out the details. Thanks everybody for dropping by. I see some more people joining. I do appreciate your time and stopping by. Please put a comment if you've got something you want to talk about. We've just been talking about a variety of things, but most recently, the land surfing idea. Let's see here. Wibble says the bot ban might be coming next season, 25th. Splintermate developer posted in their Discord. Excuse me, had to wet the whistle. That's interesting information. You know, we've been expecting it all together, so it's not really a surprise. I think everybody in the back of their minds has figured out what they're going to do, at least going into it. Like I said, I'm going to let it happen, and I will probably, I still haven't decided whether I'm just going to go ahead and revert back to Wild, or if I'm going to go ahead and play my main account in Modern for a season. I don't know yet, so remains to be seen. But everybody, you just got to take the information you have at your hand and make the best decision you can. You know, these things change. You can make a decision, let it go for a season, and say, hey, that wasn't the right decision, and change it around. So Gathering says, keep the great content and streams coming, and the subs will come. Just takes time. Yeah, I agree. I'm not, excuse me. I'm not trying to push it. I'm not trying to put out videos. I'm kind of, once in a while, you know, 1 or 2 videos a week. I do tend to post more videos when there's more stuff happening, right? And especially when I come up with a good idea. Sometimes it's hard to maintain a constant stream of ideas to actually do things. So I'm kind of dependent on new stuff happening. Obviously, you know, you do your channel, that when new stuff happens, news comes out, it's kind of relatively straightforward to do a video on what the new things is, but sometimes it takes a while to kind of extrapolate in your mind and figure out what your take on the idea is, the news, and how it's going to affect your play. And hopefully you put that out there and it helps somebody, you know, come up with ideas for their play. Simon says, unfortunately, I sold all my wild cards to concentrate on modern. Happy they changed the energy format, though. Yeah, that's kind of one of those things. When you make that kind of decision, obviously it's revertible, but with the way card prices are now, you know, yeah, in the same idea, just carrying that thought process out. I think that my deck will be, I won't have to artificially limit it to gold. I think playing in wild, I will be limited to gold because I don't think I'll make it to diamond because it's a much tougher game in wild. So we will see, though. And I'm just going to let it do what it can do because I think at this point I've put enough, you know, here we go back on how much money you put in the game. I think all of us sitting at this table here in this meeting have put a lot of money into the game. And it's all relative because what you consider a lot of money, what I do, and what one of the whales consider a lot of money, they're all just different things. But it's all your thought process. I think I've put a lot of money into the game, and right now I'm concentrating on land, and I think I'll just let my cards do what they do. You know, whether it's in modern, wild, the chests today weren't bad, but obviously we'll see when there's a full season in effect. And then going forth furthermore, whenever the bot ban goes into effect and a lot of people go into wild, there's going to be a lot more competition in wild, so we'll see how that goes. And you just have to make your decision based on the information you have. That's all you can do. Ghostly says, yeah, but it's not just about having some random common plot. It's actually also about location, location, location. And you are right, sir or ma'am. As I've said many times in my videos, there's a reason why I haven't gone in and just sorted by cheapest land. I've done that, but I haven't, and I've been tempted on it, but I've also thought about it and pulled back. I'm still only tempted to buy lands that are in good locations with a fair amount of people around me that are invested in the game and I feel are going to go ahead and invest in their lands and stake out. In other words, I'm really not going to go into a region that's owned all by one person, not calling out any names, because if you own a whole region, I don't feel there's really a way that you can successfully just really take advantage of all those plots. I mean, even for a whale, that's a huge undertaking, right? So I agree with you. And one step further from what I found this week and what I put out videos on, I'm really looking at that unstable totem package as well. You know, I did not jump on it earlier, but as we do the math, and I'll go out of occupied, but as we do the math as far as feeding the cards for clearing, and what I've done videos on this week, we see the value in those time crystals. I didn't catch on soon enough, which I should have, but you know, I've been looking at this. Chauveau seems to be a relatively decent region to be in, but at this point I'm kind of limiting to the two regions I'm already in successfully, so I can't really say. But the unstable totem, that the land I got with unstable totem did come with the time crystal package. So, and that was a question that Gathering had the other day when I posted that video. Unfortunately, they don't have that as a third option under others on Peak Monsters, so you can't necessarily see if it has the Time Vault package, which has 150 time crystals and 15,000 grain, which are roughly equivalent, but for $10 it's a great deal, right? So hindsight's always 20/20, right? So let's see here. Gathering says, if you sort by terrain, the cheapest is $35, but Caldera and mountain types are 80 plus. Yes, and that goes back to, I think, your point originally when you did the numbers on it, due to, I think, them having what was it, ore or some particular thing that they produce being of the rarer type. And obviously they're going to be, they said there's going to be 50 different types of materials that they're going to produce. So obviously all the lands, they're shooting for all the lands kind of to be equally important. But as you know, if you've got only two types of lands that produce this certain material, maybe there's going to be a lack of it, or maybe there's going to be a higher call for it and a lower supply for it on the market. I don't know. I think people at this point are still just guessing, because obviously they did just tell us a week or two ago that there were going to be 50 different materials available produced on the land. And that kind of got me looking at other types of lands I had not been looking at before. So for instance, a lot of people are dumping swamps. A lot of people are dumping bogs. A lot of people are dumping deserts. So I'm thinking, you know, if I see some nice juicy offlands like that, I consider offlands, with the building in the box and especially unstable totem, I might jump on them. Because I think that it goes back to the point of, if people are dumping them and they produce one particular material that might become important, you know, who knows? At this point, we're all guessing, right? So it's a guessing man's game. Cheapest swamp is $65. And it comes and goes, right? Because, you know, cheapest swamp in one of the regions I was looking at is $100. And back to the point of location, is that in some regions they're much more expensive, but you've got a high population of you know, whales, but not necessarily whales, but people in the community that you know that are pretty much into it. So, you know, for instance, and I'm not putting myself out there, I guess I am, but if you see a land around me, you might be more apt to buy it than a region that has one guy that owns the whole thing, because you know I've consistently said I'm really into land, and you know that you've followed me, and you know that I've bought out to completely stake out my lands and so forth. You know, that's just something to look at. So Gathering goes on to say, I think ore will be the resource to focus on, probably be the more rare, and will need to be refined into different types of steel. Yeah, that's what you had come up with, that was only available on Calderan Mountains. And I started looking at them, and obviously, you know as well as I do, the price of Calderan Mountains have stayed up. But I'll throw a counterpoint to that. What about forests? Wood, I'm betting wood is going to be needed just as much as ore, right? Forests, relatively, I don't want to say cheap, but relatively affordable. I, at one point, thought about, you know, I wouldn't mind having like a whole section of forest if I could find one in an area or in a region near me, right? But I think what you'll find is, if you look at each region, I kind of came up with this. I'm sure a lot of people thought about this as they're looking at the region. You look at the region you're in, and there's going to be one or two things that region kind of really lacks. And if you can get so for instance, if you're in a region that has very few forests, and you can get a forest or two or three in that region to sell wood, I think that's your best position. Okay, so if you're going to stay within the region, so you don't have to incur travel fees, right, to transport it, and sell it within the region, this is just extrapolation. I think that's your best bet. Same thing with the mountain in Caldera. If you go into an area with a lot of mountains and calderas, you may not make as much off of that as if you go into a region that has very few and you're lucky enough to pick up one. So once again, just rough guessing at how things work. It just goes off the whole need versus supply kind of idea, but it's out there. Gathering goes on to say he may pick up another mountain caldera if you see one under $60. Yeah. it's consistently on my radar if I find one in my region. But the regions I'm in, just back to my previous point, well, one region does. 133 has a fair amount of mountains. I don't know about Calderas, but my other region I'm in has very few mountains. So it's very hard to keep up with new content. Always ask my viewers to give me topics they want me to discuss. Yeah, I mean, there's so much out there and there's so much happening that, especially when we cover, like we do, we cover multiple games that, and I've also found this, that sometimes you start to cover something and then it's not really what your viewers would prefer you cover something else. So I'm always open for comments saying, hey, why don't you cover this, things of that nature. That's kind of also why I like these conversations, because these Saturday morning conversations can kind of go whichever way, as long as they're kind of roughly blockchain game related, you know. So really wish we had a land trade channel. Want to trade a plot to one for another common. Yeah, I agree. That's also been of my mindset. I wish there was an option to be able to just trade back and forth without having to do direct send to that person. In other words, the game as a middleman. Obviously, they're not in it. That would be extra blockchain activity, and that would be extra cost for them. It would be nice if Peak Monsters did it, allowed the trades. It was the middleman, and then you just had some kind of percentage. You know, you can do direct trades, but there's a 6% fee or something like that. Or even in game, and then there'd be like a fee, and then that fee is like burned DEC or something like that. Kind of like in World of Warcraft. If you ever played World of Warcraft, I can come up to you, I can trade you this sword, and then you can put something else in the trade, and then we both agree on it, and then we click our buttons, and it's traded. In the game, there would obviously be some type of fee in place to pay for the blockchain activity and something to benefit the game or Peak Monsters, right? But I think everybody would like that, because then you could say, hey, Bronze Dragon, you got that land over there. I would like to have that instead of this. Would you like to trade? And I said, sure, let's swap. And we could do the trade. I completely like that idea. But I wish it was in the game. Really wish you, land trade channel. Yeah, like I said, that would be basically verbal, but I would like something to be in the game or Peak Monsters where we could do trades. International Travel Channel, Guten Tag. Welcome, thanks for stopping by. We've been largely talking about land today. I do appreciate everybody. Hopefully you're in a position where you feel good with land 1.5 coming out, because I really, obviously I'm hopeful, but I don't really think it's going to be too much longer. The way they've been talking about it, I think that they're obviously it's kind of an ongoing thing, whereas they're going to release it and it's not just like one and done. It's going to be a consistent, oh, this was broken, or it wasn't something wasn't performing as well as it should, or the formulas on the back end were not completely right. All I'm hoping is that when it releases, there's no major breaks, because we all know that if there is some kind of major break that would allow for the extrapolation of SPS or DEC from the system, there's going to be bots that jump right on it. So I'm hoping that, obviously there's always going to be things that go wrong, but I'm hoping that they're minor, and I'm hoping that this extra time that they've had to iron things out allows that process to happen, and that we can get 1.5 released and get our lands up and running and get that food pumping and whatever else you want to do with your land, but getting everything started, I think that's going to be a major step. And Simon says, we gets, but I don't speak enough German to know what that means. So I'm assuming that means hello back. Anyway, we're going to round out this portion. We've got 6 minutes left. If anybody else wants to bring up a topic for the kind of get the last word in topic. Gathering says, think we will end up burning Riftwatchers packs eventually? You know, that's an interesting question that they put out there. I hope that they don't burn Riftwatchers packs. I like the whole idea behind burning them, but I think, and there's been a few other casters that have put out this idea, that I think as time goes by, we get later in the fall, we get closer to the next, the next release of the next expansion is probably going to be in first quarter next year or something or other. It's been pushed out. But I think, and I'm hoping that as we get more people into the game, that they see those packs and they start buying them up. We all know it doesn't take a whole lot to get a massive run on the packs. And I think the change over to being able to be bought with DEC will help. In fact, I was thinking about, doing like some pack openings and everything. I'm not going to do any major major pack openings, but you know me, I like to open packs at the end of my videos. So it's always fun. I'm hoping that they don't have to burn any. I'm hoping that it takes off and they get popular and people just start buying them up. I have not seen, the last time I looked, the price was still relatively decent on the secondary market. So 381 on the secondary market. Comparatively speaking, I think that's still a little bit cheaper than buying them straight with DEC, but I would have to do the math. Like I said, lately I've been concentrating on, I haven't really bought any packs lately. I have, a week or so ago, I bought that extra land to make my 6th plot. I did buy an extra common totem while we're on this page. And I did fill out my, I'll bring this over here. You all have seen this spreadsheet before, but yeah, I have to, oh my. Yeah, anyway, you get the idea. I've got enough gold foil commons now to fully stake my lands. This is just the math I was doing on my previous video on feeding the monsters, but you can see that this morning I plopped down almost extra $100 to finally fill out. And I've been trying to buy gold foil commons, and there are some duplicates of cards I like. Like I really like the Terracore Bandit, you know that. I think everybody does. Terracore Mercenary, I bought a few. Conjurer, and the Heatsmith, just because at one point it was pretty cheap. It's not so cheap anymore. But I've been trying to get a good variation of different cards available. Even though I'm not buying the cheapest, I'm spending more. But I just wanted to get some variation because my card, up until 1.5, my account is using these to play with. So that's what I've been doing this week. Magic says, if they don't sell or sell very slowly. Like I said, I hope they take off because I think, logically speaking, if the Riftwatchers packs do take off, more people are opening more, then that means the Riftwatcher 1 single card prices will go down on the market, and that's what I'm kind of looking at because there are a few specific cards I want to go ahead and increase the level of. So I'm looking forward to that. Supreme says, my main focus now is to pick up cards while prices are good. Yeah, I mean, the prices have been good for the last month, give or take, It has a side effect, though. Like my brother, he pinged me today, or yesterday or the day before, and he's like, oh, don't look at the total value of your collection. It's went down. I'm like, yeah, that goes hand in hand with the prices of cards going down, right? So I'm just take it for what it's worth. If you're into the game and you want to pick up cards for either way, for playing the game or for staking on land, now's a great time. And we've been saying that, although the prices are starting to creep up, just I guess depending upon what you're looking at. But I've been mainly looking at the gold foil commons lately in rares. Gathering says, if 100,000 Riftwatchers sell, that is 500 million DEC, the same amount as the Great Burning. Excuse me. Well, they've been doing so much, and they've been putting so much into the game and different events as far as burning DEC. and burning, the DEC, pumping DEC, that it's got to have an effect. It's got to start having an effect on it, right? The Great Burning had an effect on it, and it kind of went up, and now it's kind of trailing down. I went back after my video about the DEC that's going to be needed to feed your staked monsters, and I went ahead and bought some more because I want to be prepared. Ultimately, I've got enough now, obviously, until I buy more land or whatever else happens. But I think now, I hate to say investment advice, because as soon as I say investment advice, somebody's going to come back and say, oh, Bronze Dragon told me to buy DEC. But I think if you're in the game for the long run, buying a little bit of extra DEC while it's below peg couldn't hurt. Obviously, any crypto can go down, but there's going to be so much burning of DEC when Land 1.5 goes live that I can't really see it going down. Now, with that said, obviously watch the market crash, but there's so many DEC sinks built into Land 1.5 that it's got to go up, So Ghostly says, I've not looked at the total value of my collection for over 2 months. Yeah, that's probably a good choice. And I think that's a good word to end this session on. I appreciate everybody for coming by. Thanks for your time. This has been Bronze Dragon. If you have any ideas for next week's session, go ahead and leave them in the comments. And if you have any ideas for what you want me to cover on the channel going forward this week, leave them in the comments of my videos, and I'll get back to you on them. Gathering says, I hope they use my idea to use the vouchers for transportation costs. Would be a huge voucher sink. And thanks for the stream. Gathering has the last word. Yeah, I agree. They definitely need to do something with vouchers, and your idea is a good one. So that transportation fee is going to eat people up, and I think that's why that changed my whole idea on trying to keep as many of my lands in the same region as possible to limit those transportation fees. Thanks, Simon. Simon says, great stream. I appreciate all your time. This has been Bronze Dragon. I hope next week treats you good and everybody in your family is happy and healthy, and I will see you on the flip side.